This wasn't just a farm. It was a $6.2 million NASA-funded project to grow food on Mars. And in one weekend, someone killed it with road salt.
No, that's impossible. 5 years of breeding, gone in 2 days?
Daniel Reeves clutched his tablet, the screen already flashing red warnings from the soil sensors. Before he could process the loss, a black SUV with federal plates pulled up, kicking up dust.
Dr. Reeves, Agent Marcus Cole, NASA Office of Inspector General. We got an automated contamination alert from your test plots.
This is industrial-grade road salt. The concentration is lethal. Nothing will grow here for a decade.
This wasn't an accident. Someone knew exactly what these plots meant.
Daniel's voice cracked as he stared at the white-crusted rows, 5 years of breeding salt-resistant wheat and dwarf soybeans for Mars colonization, all dead. The tablet display glowed. NASA, USDA Cooperative Agreement, MFS 7238, Cultivar Viability Trial, Termination by Contamination, Clause 12C activated. The metal research stake lay broken on the salted ground, its NASA USDA emblem half buried in the crust, a federal crime scene by sunrise. Agent Cole studied the drone footage, a perfect rectangle of dead crops where salt-tolerant test plots had been.
We were weeks from final selection for the Mars greenhouse trial. Now, they're all dead.
The salt is industrial road de-icer, 8% concentration. Someone poured it here on purpose.
Any threats or disputes? Neighbors, activists, anyone who wanted your project stopped?
The HOA violation letter read, "Unkempt vegetation is an eyesore. Remove immediately or face fines. Jennifer Ballard, President."
She sent 3 of those. Called my breeding plots weird-looking plants. Said they'd tank property values.
Dr. Tran's probe matched the soil to commercial road salt, the same de-icer sold in 50-pound bags.
It's not runoff. The distribution pattern shows someone walked through and scattered it by hand.
Jennifer Ballard. Motive and access. Check her social media people that arrogant love to boast.
The drone circled again, mapping the contamination. The hunt was on, and suspicion turned toward the HOA's pristine streets. Back at the field office, Agent Cole had already pulled up the Ridgemont Heights Neighborhood Watch page. The latest post was pinned at the top.
Here we go. Jennifer Ballard posted a video 3 days ago, right after the weekend.
The caption was smug, "Taking care of those ugly weeds. Check out my new weed killer." He tapped play. In the clip, a woman in a hot pink jacket laughed as she emptied a heavy bag of white granules across a row of leafy plants.
Those weeds won't survive this. Might use this stuff on the whole farm.
That's plot 4. The same test row where salt concentration peaked.
She just incriminated herself on camera. That's enough for a warrant.
Cole cross-referenced the video's background with drone imagery. The angles, the research stakes, the timing, all aligned perfectly. The video made no mention of NASA or federal contracts. Just smug pride over killing weeds. Agents had their suspect. The investigation now had a name, a face, and irrefutable evidence. The knock came at 10 a.m., firm and official.
Open up, Mrs. Ballard. Federal agents.
What is this about? I'm busy.
Cole raised his badge, then tapped his phone. The video was cued to her smiling face.
You dumped industrial salt on a federal research site. Do you deny it?
Salt? That was just weed killer for the ugly plants on Reeves' property. It wasn't a crime.
Jennifer's smirk dissolved. The color drained from her face.
That property is a $6.2 million NASA contract to grow food on Mars. You destroyed 5 years of research.
NASA? No, there must be a mistake. Those were just ugly weeds. I didn't know.
Cole gestured toward the door. Jennifer Ballard was no longer just an HOA bully. She was a suspect in a federal investigation, her world collapsing with every step. Inside the sterile interrogation room, Jennifer sat across from Agent Cole and Dr. Tran, the one-way mirror reflecting her hot pink jacket.
I was just trying to keep the neighborhood nice. Those plants were an eyesore. Anyone would have done it.
Those eyesores were experimental cultivars designed to feed astronauts on Mars. You salted a federal test site.
We spent 5 years breeding wheat and soybeans that can grow in 4% salinity, like the Martian soil. Every test plot is irreplaceable.
Jennifer's mouth opened, but no defense came. The word irreplaceable hung in the air.
The damage exceeds $6 million. That's a felony under Title 18, Section 1361. You're facing prison.
Prison? For pulling weeds? You can't be serious. I didn't know it was NASA.
Dr. Tran slid an evidence bag across the table. The same road salt, same brand from the video.
Oh God, I thought I was helping. I didn't mean to ruin anything important.
Her attempts to deflect crumbled. She had confessed on camera, and now the full weight of federal law bore down. At the USDA field station, Daniels stared at the contamination report. Emily Tran stood beside him, her expression grim.
The soil EH is irreparably damaged. Salinity levels won't drop for at least 7 years.
So everything I bred is gone. The Mars trials, the dwarf soybean lines, all of it.
He opened a worn notebook, pages filled with 5 years of crossing notes, now just a memorial.
I'm sorry, Daniel, but there's another problem. Global Seed Holdings has been calling.
The seed company's letterhead sat on the desk, their logo a reminder of a contract Daniel had almost forgotten.
The licensing deal. They pre-funded part of the breeding in exchange for first rights.
Word of the sabotage reached them. Their legal team is requesting a meeting.
Daniel felt the ground shift. This wasn't just about lost research anymore. It was about breach of contract. The future of food on Mars hung in the balance, now tangled with corporate lawyers and a ruined test field. 2 days after the arrest, Daniel's farm office door opened to a woman in a sharp gray suit, her expression unreadable.
Dr. Reeves, Victoria Hale from Global Seed Holdings Legal Department. We have a situation.
She placed the licensing agreement on the desk. Section 14 was flagged with a bold tab.
Cultivar 7B was pre-licensed under a federal research partnership. The contract has teeth.
Teeth? What do you mean?
I mean a destruction by sabotage clause. It assigns personal liability to whoever ruined the crop.
Daniel scanned the fine print. The clause held the saboteur responsible for lost revenue, research costs, and penalty fees, all from her own pocket.
You're targeting Jennifer Ballard directly? She'd lose everything.
She is the proximate cause. Her actions triggered the breach. We're legally obligated to pursue full restitution.
A separate civil suit was already being drafted, and Jennifer's house was squarely in the crosshairs. The federal magistrate's courtroom was cold and impersonal. Jennifer Ballard sat stiff in her hot pink jacket, now wrinkled from a night in holding. The indictment was concise: malicious destruction of federal research property, with a potential penalty of 10 years. Her public defender argued ignorance, but the prosecution played the video, Jennifer's own voice echoing through the chamber.
Please, make it stop. I didn't know they were anything but ugly weeds.
The magistrate was unmoved. Bail was set at $500,000, secured by her house. Jennifer shrieked, but the order was already signed. Her assets were frozen pending trial. Bound by an ankle monitor, she was released into the gray afternoon, a convicted woman in all but name.
This can't be happening. I'm the HOA president, not a criminal. Why didn't they just put up signs?
The bail condition was precise. Every asset she owned was now collateral, her financial life under a federal microscope. Outside the courthouse, Jennifer's world had shrunk to the size of a monitored bracelet, and the worst was still to come. In a glass-walled high-rise, Victoria Hale signed the civil complaint, her pen moving with cold precision.
Global Seed Holdings versus Jennifer Ballard. Damages $4.7 million in lost licensing revenue.
The document was explicit. Every asset she owned could be liquidated, starting with the mortgage-free house on Ridgemont Court. 2 hours later, a process server knocked on Jennifer's door. She answered, still wearing yesterday's wrinkled jacket.
What now? Haven't you people done enough?
The server handed her the thick envelope, then recited the case number for the body camera. The opening paragraph was ruthless. Defendant's intentional destruction of a pre-licensed cultivar caused breach, activating personal liability under Section 14.
4.7 million. That's more than the house is worth. They're taking everything.
She sank onto the couch, the papers scattering. The ankle monitor felt heavier than ever. Now she faced two fronts: federal prison and financial ruin, both closing fast. The next morning, Jennifer's lawyer called with a reality she couldn't dodge.
What do you mean, personally liable? I was just trying to keep the neighborhood clean.
The lawyer explained the sabotage clause. As the proximate cause, her personal assets would be seized.
My house. They can take my house for a bag of salt? There has to be a way out. Can't we argue ignorance? It was an honest mistake.
The answer was no. The contract was ironclad, and her video had doomed any defense. She ended the call and stared at her living room, now a potential crime scene of her own making.
It's all slipping away. The HOA, the neighbors, my home.
The hot pink jacket felt like a costume for her foolishness. She wept on the couch, clutching the phone, mourning everything she was about to lose. Desperate and cornered, Jennifer grabbed her phone and typed a new post for the neighborhood group. The message read, "The so-called Mars research was a hoax. Reeves never told anyone it was federal. He set me up." The accusation spread among residents, but a local reporter sensed a bigger story and started digging. Within hours, she had obtained the unredacted NASA USDA contract and published it for all to see. The article's headline screamed, "HOA, President's salty sabotage. Federal documents prove Mars mission was real."
That's private. They can't publish my mistakes.
Her original post filled with angry comments. Neighbors called her a saboteur, not a victim. Her attempt to rewrite the narrative had collapsed. Now the court saw her as manipulative and defiant. From his farm, Daniel watched the news van leave. Justice was coming, but it brought no joy. The prosecution cited her false statements as obstruction, piling more pressure onto her crumbling defense. Victoria Hale called Daniel that evening, her tone leaving no room for sympathy.
The civil trial depends on your testimony. You must make the court understand the full devastation.
I know what she did, but I didn't intend for her to lose her home over a bag of salt.
Intent is irrelevant. She triggered the clause. Your hand-wringing won't bring back the crops.
Daniel ended the call, his mind churning. He drove to the USDA lab, needing a perspective he trusted.
You're second-guessing the lawsuit.
This wasn't just about me, but the punishment feels out of proportion.
Daniel, that cultivar could have fed a colony. It wasn't a garden. It was a lifeline.
He stared at the dead plant sample on his desk, years of notes memorialized in bound volumes. The choice loomed: testify with full force and watch a life crumble, or hold back and dishonor the science. The criminal case resolved quicker than anyone expected. Jennifer Ballard stood before the judge one final time.
I accept the plea. I never meant to destroy federal property.
The judge accepted the plea agreement: negligent destruction, 1 year probation, and $200,000 restitution to the USDA. She avoided prison, but the civil liability remained. The judge warned that the civil court would decide her financial fate independently. The law had her firmly in its grip, but the financial noose was only tightening. The civil trial was set for 3 weeks later, and Victoria Hale had already filed her witness list.
One little bag of salt, and now I might lose everything.
She walked out of the courthouse, a convicted felon with her house still on the line. The next courtroom would decide if she kept a roof over her head. The civil courtroom was smaller but no less intimidating. Victoria Hale stood with an air of absolute certainty.
This signed contract explicitly binds anyone who destroys the research to personal liability. The defendant is that proximate cause. The lost licensing revenue is $4.7 million. The defendant's assets must cover the full amount.
Cultivar 7B had 93% salinity tolerance. It was ready for Mars simulation. The salt killed it in less than 12 hours.
He described the years of breeding, the meticulous notes, the irreplaceable genetic lines. Jennifer's face crumpled. Jennifer's lawyer tried to argue ignorance, but the contract's sabotage clause didn't care about intent. The judge studied the evidence: the video, the email from Daniel about the HOA, the soil reports. Closing arguments finished. The courtroom fell silent. The verdict would be swift. The judge announced he would rule within 48 hours, but the direction was already clear. Jennifer sat frozen, her future about to be stripped away, one legal paragraph at a time. 2 tense days later, the courtroom was silent as the judge unfolded the ruling. Jennifer's breath caught. The court finds the defendant personally liable for damages of $3.8 million, to be satisfied from her assets.
$3.8 million? That's everything. I'll appeal this to the federal circuit.
Her lawyer shook his head. There were no appeals left. Victoria Hale already had the execution papers ready.
Your Honor, we request immediate asset seizure, including the defendant's primary residence.
The judge granted the motion. Within minutes, a hold was placed on Jennifer's bank accounts and property title.
My house. They're going to take my house for a prank on weeds.
Jennifer collapsed into her seat. The hot pink fabric now wrinkled with sweat and tears. The execution of judgment would begin before the week ended. The countdown to her eviction was set. The seed company had its pound of flesh. Jennifer Ballard's house was now a corporate asset, soon to be stripped. The morning brought a final insult. A sheriff's deputy approached Jennifer's home, a bright orange notice in his hand. Notice of seizure and sale. By order of the court, all personal property and real estate assets are hereby claimed.
You can't do this. I've lived here for 12 years.
The deputy shrugged, bound by law. The notice gave her 72 hours to vacate. Inside, the rooms filled with cardboard boxes. Each one swallowed another piece of her life. She packed her clothes, her photos, her OA gavel, now a symbol of her arrogance. Neighbors drove by slowly, some snapping photos, none offering help. The HOA board published a public statement. We condemn the actions of our former president and fully cooperate with authorities.
I thought I was protecting the neighborhood. Now they've turned on me.
By sundown, the house was stripped. Only her ankle monitor and the eve of departure remained. The morning of the eviction, Daniel drove out to the research field one last time. The salt still crusted the earth like frozen snow, but the official tape marked it a federal relic.
Goodbye, 7B. 5 years, 2,000 crosses, all nullified by a woman who never looked past her lawn.
He opened his research notebook one final time, then made a call.
Victoria, I want to authorize a small monthly sum from the restitution for Jennifer's survival.
The seed company objected, but Daniel's victim impact statement swayed the court. It was granted. He hung up and walked to the dead rose, no longer angry, just hollow.
When astronauts farm on Mars, none of this will matter. The work continues.
He closed the notebook, its pages full of ghosts, and looked toward the horizon. The moving trucks arrived before sunrise, 3 of them, white and unmarked, with a crew that moved like machines. Deputies stood watch while the crew hauled out the contents of her 12-year life: couches, tables, boxes labeled kitchen, and photos. A tow truck hooked onto her BMW, lifting it as if it weighed nothing. The repossession was televised by a neighbor's phone camera.
That's my car. I worked for that car.
No one responded. The hot pink jacket hung on her like a shroud, the former HOA president now just another eviction statistic. A property manager hammered a for rent sign into the fresh mulch. The HOA's rules had finally consumed their own. Jennifer stood by a small suitcase, her ankle monitor visible below the hem, all arrogance gone, all comfort erased.
A bag of salt. That's what brought me here.
She stared at the empty house, the rooms where she'd planned a future, now just vacant walls waiting for strangers. She picked up her suitcase and walked. The ankle monitor beeped with each step, a constant reminder that the state still claimed her. A week after the eviction, Daniel's phone rang with news he never expected. Emily Tran's voice was bright.
Daniel, the emergency appropriation passed. NASA and USDA approved a full relocation grant. They want you to lead it.
A new site? They found clean soil?
40 acres near the research station. Salt-free, prepped and waiting. They're calling it the Mars Forward Initiative.
3 days later, Daniel walked the new greenhouse, glass panels gleaming under the sun, irrigation lines humming. He knelt beside a tray of soil, placing a single seedling into the earth with practiced care.
Cultivar 7B, 2nd generation.
A young research assistant watered the new rose, her face lit with the same purpose Daniel once felt.
The mission didn't die in that salt. It just took a detour.
In the morning sun, the new fields stretched out like a promise, resilient and green. A week later, Jennifer sat on the edge of a motel bed, the remote control still wrapped in plastic. She scrolled through her phone, the news feed full of accolades she wished she could ignore. The headline read, Mars Forward Initiative receives $6 million grant, led by Dr. Daniel Reeves.
That was my fault. I buried his research and now he's on the news.
She closed the browser and set the phone face down on the stained nightstand. The motel room smelled of bleach and regret. Outside, the world had moved on without her. A few miles away, her former house sat empty. The lawn still manicured, but the lights never on. The for rent sign had faded in the sun, a monument to her arrogance. Jennifer stared at the ceiling, the ankle monitor a constant companion, her future a blank page with no guarantees. In the silence, the memory of Salt crunched under her conscience, and for the first time, she had no one left to blame but herself. 1 year later, the Mars simulation chamber glowed with red LEDs, a mock-up of the red planet's surface. Inside, rows of soybean and wheat plants thrived in artificial regolith, their roots drawing from saline solutions Daniel had perfected. At dusk, he left the chamber and walked his fields, the real earth cool beneath his boots. The greenhouse lights flickered on behind him, and he tilted his head back to face the emerging stars.
Somewhere up there, a future colony will eat what we bred right here.
A shooting star cut across the darkness, a silent streak of light.
We'll get there. Not today, but soon.
Daniel allowed a rare smile, the weight of the past year finally balanced by purpose. Back in the chamber, a new generation of seeds was already germinating, pushing through simulated Martian soil. The red planet hung steady in the sky above the field, patient and waiting. The old test plot was finally declared a Superfund site, a monument to what a single weekend of arrogance could cost. But 300 miles north, Daniel's new fields stretched green and defiant. Cultivar 7B had been reborn from backup seeds, its genetics now stronger than ever. Inside the Mars Habitat Simulator, those same plants grew without soil, their roots in engineered regolith. The USDA-NASA partnership announced the first successful closed-loop crop test, proof that Mars farming was achievable. The report had a footnote. This achievement is built on the resilience of scientists who refused to quit and the legal system that held saboteurs accountable. Jennifer Ballard completed her probation and moved to a studio apartment, her HOA presidency, a distant humiliation. Daniel never sought revenge, only resolution. He got both, and when the first human boots touch Martian soil, the wheat that grows there will remember Ridgemont Farm. Not the salt, not the spite, just the science that refused to die.